Godzilla is possibly one of the most important and well-known movie monsters, a symbol of post-Hiroshima Nagasaki bombings living. It was a monster that destroyed everything in its path, with no mercy, much like an atomic bomb, leaving people in fear and almost awe of such a destructive force that shouldn't exist, one created by man yet turned on it, but by making them witness its destruction and having them live with it. The ones that died with the blast were the lucky ones, as the rest were left mangled bodies searching for a home that was no longer theirs, reclaimed by nature and left to be nothing but a pile of rubble on top of grass and dirt. A true movie monster for the ages, one whose scale has never been shown so depressingly and hauntingly since the original, that of course turned into cheesy sequels with a bunch of crossovers and even a 1998 American adaptation. We don't talk about that one. Was the reaction to when it came out. A hyped up monster movie, finally seeing the Americans' take on it, a bit ironic considering the origins, that while I enjoyed it as a dumb fun popcorn flick with a few genuinely good moments, failed to capture the true essence of Godzilla, as it could be killed, much like the Americans' hold on Godzilla, as Japan would continue on with their series, as we were left with an animated show that was actually pretty good, but not much else. Yet years later, Legendary and Warner Brothers came to an agreement with Toho to finally give another try to Godzilla, this time with an indie director and Walter White. This certainly got people hyped, and the film came out to huge success, but a lot of people would criticize a lot of things about it. But I actually think it's a pretty good movie. Dare I say it's actually the best of this entire MonsterVerse franchise, though that's not exactly a high bar. But what made it work? Well, let's find out. The film begins with ancient drawings and papers about the king of the monsters, Godzilla himself, among others who would come later. We see some nuke testing that was actually to kill Godzilla, not to create him. Two scientists, Serizawa and Vivian, go to a mining quarry in the Philippines to find a skeleton very similar to Godzilla in a scene I actually kind of forgot. Still a really cool and ominous introduction, as they find two spores, but one is hatched, the Muto, as it went to the ocean. The thing is, I don't think that skeleton has ever really been mentioned after this point in the series, making it all the more mysterious. Wish it was answered, and maybe when I go through the rest of the movies I'll actually find out whether or not it was actually answered, but I don't think it was. We transition to Japan where the Brody family is living, and as the sun Ford leaves with some birthday decorations, we see some monsters, and the one on the right looks an awful lot like the Mutos. The left one too, but mainly the right. Nice foreshadowing. The dad Joe is on the phone about tremors as they've gone from Philippines to their backyard. We also meet the mom Sandra who totally won't die in a brutal and sad way. They get to work and put on their birthday suits, just suits. Well, maybe not for Joe's, it is his birthday. No matter, shit goes down in an instant as the reactor starts experiencing seismic activity, locking Sandra and several others in, and we get a really depressing scene. This perfectly sets up Joe's character and why he would go after Godzilla, seeing part of the destruction he thinks he caused, and how he had to lose his wife on his birthday, and seeing his home being destroyed by this monster will make him feel hopelessness and of course want revenge. Lack of overbearing music helps, as it's mainly just the sound effects like the tremor collapsing and the building collapsing as well, and then all the death. The music helps to be the icing on the cake, making you feel the emotion even more, instead of fully, as the scene is still very sad. We cut to 15 years later where Ford is now in the Navy apparently, as he returns to San Francisco to his sister Wanda Maximoff. Oh shoot, wrong franchise. Movie came out the year after too, huh? Funny. He returns to his wife Elle and his son Sam as they celebrate him coming back with the milk, but Joe didn't as he's been arrested in Japan for trespassing. Really, he just wanted to see if Los Pollos Hermanos was the bomb. Can't blame a guy for wondering.
Hell, I can't find my pants.
Honey, where are my pants?
That came out the same year too, the hell? He goes to Tokyo and gets his dad as they go back to his house, which is a mess filled to the brim with newspapers about the event. This event, among a couple others, has single-handedly consumed this man's life, desperate to find answers because he knows what happened was not a human doing this or even a natural disaster like the officials say. Ford also mentions his job is to stop bombs from dropping, which is nice foreshadowing of the third act, or I guess just a basic setup. Either way, it's still cool. He wants to show Ford that he's one flew above the cuckoo and the readings in the quarantine zone, aka his house and the surrounding areas, are the same as it was the day the event happened. We also get a nice but short monologue from Joe showing even more into his thoughts and mind as he still believes Sandra is still out there. She has to be. He wants to believe anything but the truth for her, that maybe the love of his life is still alive somewhere and needs to find her, as he doesn't even have a picture of her because of the evacuation being so quick. Bryan Cranston is obviously the standout, but I think Aaron Taylor Johnson does a good job as a soldier, trying hard not to crack and show his emotions, yet he lets slip just enough to prove he's human and not some one actor, and also show how much this event has affected him. The next day they go to the quarantine zone with proper precautions obviously, yet they figure out the radiation is basically gone and the air is clean. They walk around the house for a bit before Joe finally finds a picture with his wife Sandra in it. How beautiful. Unfortunately, they get found and put in a van. Aw, no free candy. They get taken to a facility in the plant's ruins where they see a giant, penis curled up like a croissant. I mean, it's got the testicles too. In reality, it's a chrysalis, the one that wasn't hatched, like the spore, I guess, but is still giving off readings and feeding on radiation. Serizawa and Vivian go to where Joe's being questioned and continue to captivate the screen, giving another great monologue.
See, there it is again. That is not a transformer malfunction.
I don't know, they can do some pretty crazy stuff.
No, Optimus!
The penis croissant starts getting erect and giving off the same readings it did 15 years ago when it destroyed absolutely everything. So see, Joe, Godzilla's not that bad. Not that he would know, as when the Muto escapes, it basically kills him as all hell breaks loose in an awesome scene, really showing the power and magnitude of these things, which this film really excels in. The military is taking over the situation as Joe dies, which is a damn shame. I know Gareth Edwards has his reasons for taking Joe out of the movie, as he felt it served his purpose to the story and gave his piece of the puzzle, and it kind of felt like The Last Crusade, but still, he needed more screen time. I feel like his arc could have been similar to Ford's, learning not to hate Godzilla for an event they didn't commit, and learn how not all monsters are the same. Some aren't even really monsters, but gods and kings just want to keep the others in check, including Earth itself. Hell, here's a good alternative. Maybe Ford died as a child as well as Sandra, and he's just a figment of Joe's imagination, something to keep him going instead of being crazy and alone. Almost like support from him in his mind to help him with his arc, and forgive him for not saving his family as it was out of his hands. I don't know, something like that, like Ford as a grown-up is just his imagination and what he thinks he would look like as a grown-up, which could play into the themes of what if and possibilities, as Joe's been holding off on his life and moving on while others in the area that got attacked there, just kind of like grew up and uses the Muto's escape as a reason for all this. I don't know, just something to include him. I just wish he was in the movie for longer. Also, Up From the Depths has a really good video on this, really goes into detail about the alternatives of keeping this character. Ford gets on the Saratoga and meets with the general, giving a presentation about the events and how it should be handled. His name is William Stenz, and he meets with Serizawa, and he, along with Vivian, give a presentation to Ford about the opening credits. Well, the tests that were going on in the opening credits during 1954, or, how they're trying to kill Godzilla, like I said earlier. They set up the Hollow Earth part of Earth and explain how the monsters subsided there once the radiation levels went down to maintain their size and proportions, and also strength and speed. They also give it a good explanation as to why they didn't kill the Muto, as they worried all the radiation it feasted on would be released, endangering millions. That actually makes sense and is a good reason. He goes to Hawaii after calling Elle and leaving a voicemail, where we get arguably one of the best sequences of events in the entire franchise, only hampered by a slight lack of payoff, but even then just slight lack of payoff. Serizawa figures out that something responded to the Muto's calls, meaning there's about to be 2 sons of bitches real soon. Ford goes on to train while several others do, including a boy whose actions result in him being separated from his parents. Dumbass, I hope you die. Being serious, it is sad, and Ford quickly takes him under his wing. Is that a pun considering what the Mutos have? I don't know.
Whoa. Hey, whoa, kid. Okay, it's okay. I'm gonna bring him back.
Would these strangers allow some dude to take care of a child they know was separated from his parents? Either way, he gives the kid one of his recently found childhood toys, as the military has lost sight of a Russian submarine in Oahu, which I wish more of the film took place in. Such an awesome area with many cool places to destroy. Seems like a weird compliment, sure, but in a monster disaster movie, it's one of the highest you can get. A team of military soldiers finds it with a bunch of, happy goo, I'm gonna say, as they look up. Whenever I see that shot, I always first think it's a giant mutated spider, which gets my hopes up and reminds me of the sequel Skull Island, and then I think it's a giant tongue. But then it's neither. It's the sub. They find the Muto and catch it in 4K. Some soldiers get deployed onto rooftops while the Muto deploys its organic form of EMP, knocking out the entire island as the water starts receding, indicating a tsunami and also Godzilla's arrival. Serizawa and Vivian go on top of the Saratoga to see Godzilla, or Gojira as its initial Japanese name is said, emerge in the water, slowly but surely. I mean, slowly emerging, not slowly swimming, it's getting there fast. The tsunami hits, killing hundreds as this girl looks, well, pretty content with the possibility of fucking drowning. Alright then, totally not realistic, but okay. Everyone flees to the rooftops while the soldiers fire flares showing Godzilla, but not all of them, which is great, because we get a better reveal later, though this is still cool and awesome. Also makes for a cool trailer shot, because it is a cool trailer shot. The train continues as the lights go back on, or I guess backup lights, as the Muto arrives, wreaking havoc as it destroys the train, killing many in the process, or maybe just a few, whatever, it still destroys the train. It continues on to the airport, and you all know what that means. If you've seen the film, you remember it, along with the Halo scene, but we'll get to that soon. Godzilla finally gets revealed in one of the most awesome scenes in the entire movie, but the problem is, it cuts away too quickly, you barely get to see the damage. I wish if we had to cut away, it'd be done like this. See Godzilla's footsteps silencing everyone, as you see in the final cut. As you cut to several people's different perspectives all over the world watching the news. Live broadcasts of the event showing parts of Godzilla as everyone watches in horror and awe. They've never seen anything like this up until right now. For most, they haven't. They would get confirmed if two monsters exist, and would, and then you cut to Godzilla's war, and then maybe you cut back to the people watching on the news, Godzilla in the reflection, and then you show at least like a minute of fighting, if not more. However, we do get some pretty good destruction aftermath shots as Ford sees the child reunited and goes toward the military areas to saddle up and fight. Serizawa and Vivian figure out this spore in Las Vegas may have been hatched and responded to the Muto's calls. Well, the other Muto's calls is this is also Muto, but wingless and also enormous, and also pregnant, but we'll get to that later, and it's very important. And it has, destroying Vegas quickly. Damn, wasted a good fight scene. I mean, I would have liked one out of that, or even just a destruction scene. Still a cool scene, but very quick. The military and government leaders decide to bait the Mutos with nuclear warheads on a train, about 3 I believe, and then kill it with the blast. An absolutely stupid idea, but how much do they have? He convinces Budget Eli Roth, Master Sergeant, to let him on the train with nuclear warheads, as it's his job. See, I told you it'll come back. Wait, I thought they were just blowing it up, not defusing it. Well, they do later, but whatever. The train stops and they have to go on foot, but not really looking down despite the size between each piece of the railroad. Dude, you could so easily fall in that, and their flashlight does, causing the Muto to rise in a really cool and scary scene, mimicking noises like the radio and train, which it promptly destroys. It sends Morales and Ford's way down, but destroys a bridge, sending them down. He is the only survivor, however, as Morales dies. I'm not sure I mentioned Morales at all. He's a very small character. He's only in like a couple scenes. And also kills the others. But he's picked up as in San Francisco, buses come evacuating people and evacuating people fast, sending them to shelters underground, I presume. I believe it's subway shelters as well. Sam gets on one as Ellie sends him to one instead of just waiting for Ford, as he's kind of busy nearly dying for a third time now, I think? Maybe more. Godzilla starts heading towards the Gate Bridge, aka the Golden Gate Bridge, but there's still buses, meaning people are screwed as Godzilla rises up in another really well-constructed scene full of suspense. Tons of birds start migrating, which is always a bad sign and means you should get the hell out of there, as Godzilla starts to break through the water as the bus with Sam and others leave, breaking through a sign and nearly running over several cops and military personnel. The bus driver gets stopped, however, by a piece of the bridge falling as Godzilla shows up and starts messing things up again by breaking through the bridge as the bus continues, now with a clear path. So anyways, everyone dies, in a really horrifying scene too. The writing may not be the best, although it's still very good in some areas, but damn does Gareth Edwards know how to direct a scene that is properly horrifying. Who wrote this movie anyways? The hell? Oh wait, he and David S. Goyer did some additional uncredited writing. Apparently he also wrote the death scene of Sandra, so yeah, you can feel his writing a bit throughout this, focusing on the military but not in a Michael Bay way, and focusing on the characters and how they react. Makes sense he took some part in this. Yet it is here where the female Muto, aka the big-ass one, is revealed as the male one gives a final nuclear warhead to her and her babies. The military, including Joe, decides to do a halo jump into the city, more specifically the Chinatown area, as that's where the final nuclear warhead is, to give, as it's feeding, like the babies are feeding off of it. They need to remotely set the nuke off, and so have to do this to do so. They also decide to put it on a boat and sail it as far away from the people as possible. William Stenz also talks to Serizawa, and we get this awesome and iconic line.
Let them fight.
Damn awesome. This whole little speech is basically saying, yeah, we messed up, we can't always believe we're the ones in control. Sometimes it's best to let others do the actual fighting and do their own thing instead of trying to stop them and getting others killed. We have to let them fight. The male Muto starts attacking the area near the subway shelters, but gets stopped by Godzilla, who starts to fight then. Oh, come on. I get build up and I like that, but this is too much. Just a bit more. We then get the famous Halo jump scene, so I guess they knew they need to make up for that lackluster anticlimactic scene by getting this. A thrilling, terrifying drop into a new world basically. A version of Hell's cities in ruins, with many soldiers jumping down as we see from Joe's POV, Godzilla and the Mutos fighting. It's dark and hard to see, throwing them off balance and really feeling like they're entering a new world. Something so utterly different and terrifying. It's palpable, it's just so cool I wish more movies did it. Or something similar to it, like to update it and not make it feel cliche. Hell, you can even hear the end of Godzilla's roar if you put it on loud enough. It's faint but distinct. The mother starts laying the eggs near the warhead, and I gotta compliment the sound design. Very alien and nasty work. Truly sounds like a different species of monsters compared to Godzilla. The soldiers go down and see a pretty gross image of all the eggs basically lashed onto the warhead, posing a bit of a problem. No mind that, they get the warhead off and onto the boat while Ford destroys a nest, absolutely obliterating it, causing the mother to get pretty pissed like mothers do and nearly kill Ford, which has got to be pretty terrifying for him. This big-ass mom is trying to kill him specifically, but no matter. Godzilla charges and blasts her and kills the male Muto, but unfortunately takes a hit himself, nearly dying and showing Ford that this is not a monster. Godzilla is just trying to survive like he is. He's not the monster him and his father thought he was, and was not the reason that he lost his mother. So anyways, he gets up and blasts up at the female Muto's neck. Great, the day is saved, the warhead goes off killing nobody but all the fishes. Fuck them fishes. Owen Ford is reunited with his family and Godzilla gets to swim his ass back to the sea as the film ends. And that was Godzilla. Pretty great. I get why some may not like this movie, but honestly it works for me so well. The military aspect is pretty interesting and engaging. Seeing how they respond to such beasts and how they evacuate the people is quite fun. Seeing all this organized chaos gives me a pre-apocalypse type feel that the movie nails. The characters are kind of where the movie lets down for me, as aside from some scenes with Joe, Ford is the only genuinely engaging character through and through, and I wish he stayed on, like how I described earlier. There's just so much potential for this character to live at least until the end and help strengthen Joe's character, maybe even remove him. However, the characters are still decently interesting and don't bore me to death and or infuriate me with their stupid decisions, yet it's what the other characters that truly succeeds in. Godzilla has something of a character and a personality despite the lack of lines, or really any lines beyond roaring and blasting his atomic breath. The Mutos are also sympathetic to a degree, and you can understand that they only want to have a family. Problem is the whole world will be screwed if they do so. The other monsters are also well set up, and so is the rest of this franchise, laying the groundwork for it all. It also looks good. Yeah, I know the whole it's too dark to see anything crap, that's just bad transfers. I do wish the Hellscape City aspect was shown more. It's basically just the last 15 minutes, which sucks because it had such a good introduction, a scratch to that perfect introduction. And yes, I know Godzilla's not in it much technically, but that's the same for most movie monsters, and it works. Overall, this is a flawed movie, but has several good or even great things to make it worthwhile. You could follow me on Instagram or TikTok, or I'm active on both, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.